The rain-slicked streets of Manhattan gleamed like shattered glass under the sodium lamps, and I stood there, heart pounding, as Fred's shadow loomed larger than the skyscrapers behind him. "You think you can edit me out of your life like one of your goddamn manuscripts?" he snarled, his voice a velvet blade that cut straight to the bone. In that instant, I realized the villain I'd fallen for wasn't just ink on a page. He was the storm tearing me apart from the inside. I never believed in love at first read. That's what I told myself after Marcus left, his suitcase thumping down the stairs of our Brooklyn brownstone like the final punctuation on a rejected query letter. "It's not you, Alex," he'd said, eyes darting to the floor as if the Persian rug held all the answers. "It's the job. The hours. This city. It chews us up, but I knew better. It was me, the quiet editor with ink-stained fingers and a heart too bruised to fight for. Abandoned again, like the half-finished novels piling up on my desk at Hawthorne Press. That was 6 months ago, and I'd buried myself in work, convinced that stories were safer than people. Safer until Johnny Harlan's manuscript landed in my inbox. It arrived on a Tuesday, the kind of gray October morning where the fog off the East River clings to your coat like regret. Subject line: unfinished, but yours if you dare. No agent, no bio, just a raw, 300-page beast titled Shadows in the Spire. I almost deleted it. Unsolicited queries were the bane of my existence, but something in the prose hooked me, a jagged rhythm that echoed the pulse in my throat. I poured coffee, black as the villain's soul at its center, and dove in. Fred Carver was no ordinary antagonist. He wasn't the mustache-twirling type who'd tie the hero to the tracks for cheap thrills. No, Fred was the architect of quiet ruin, a Wall Street wolf with eyes like smoked quartz, who whispered betrayals into the ears of men who'd die for him. In Shadows, he seduced the protagonist, Liam, not with force but with fragments of truth, stolen glances in dimly lit bars, fingers brushing over bourbon glasses, promises that tasted like smoke. It was gay noir, laced with the grit of 1980s excess, but Johnny Harlan wrote it like he'd lived it, every line dripping with the kind of ache that made my chest tighten. By page 50, I was highlighting passages, my red pen hovering like a lover's hesitation. Who was this Johnny? A quick Google turned up nothing. No LinkedIn profile. No Twitter rants about writer's block. Just a P.O. box in Chelsea and an email that bounced pleasantries back like a well-rehearsed deflection. I fired off my standard response. Intrigued, but needs polish. Send revisions. His reply came at midnight. Polish? Or do you mean carve me open, Mr. Editor? Fred's waiting. That night, I dreamed of Fred. Not the character, but flesh and blood, leaning against the wrought iron fence of my subconscious fire escape, cigarette dangling from lips curved in mockery. "You think you can fix me, Alex?" he drawled, voice low and East Coast clipped, the kind that said old money and older sins. I woke sweating, the sheets twisted like plot threads I couldn't untangle. The revisions arrived a week later, thicker, bloodier. Johnny had amplified Fred's arc. More stolen nights in the meatpacking district's hidden lofts, where leather met silk and trust shattered like crystal. But there was heart in the villainy, Fred's backstory, a whisper of abandonment by a father who preferred boardrooms to bedtime stories. It mirrored my own ghosts too closely. Dad's goodbye note after Mom's funeral, folded into my Boy Scout handbook like it was just another merit badge. I edited ruthlessly, slashing redundancies, tightening the tension between Fred and Liam until it hummed like a live wire. Yet with every cut, I felt Fred pulling me in, his charisma seeping through the screen. We started emailing. First, it was professional line edits, character motivations. But Johnny had a way of turning queries into confessions. "Does Fred's betrayal feel earned?" he'd ask. "Or is it just the knife twist you crave?" I'd fire back drafts, my notes laced with questions I hadn't meant to voice. Why make him so redeemable? Why the rain-soaked kiss on page 187? The one that leaves Liam gasping against a brick wall? "Because villains don't fall easy," Johnny replied. "They drag you down with them." By November, the manuscript was a monster, 450 pages of desire and deceit. Hawthorne's holiday party loomed, a glittering affair at the plaza where agents schmoozed and editors nursed grudges in crystal flutes. I hadn't planned to go. Crowds still felt like indictments after Marcus. But my boss, Evelyn, cornered me in the break room. "Harlan's book is gold. Alex, bring him." Schmooze, as if I could summon a ghost. The night of the party, snow dusted the avenues like powdered sugar on regret. I arrived late, tie askew, scanning the ballroom for familiar faces. Champagne fizzed in my glass, bubbles rising like unspoken apologies. Then I saw him, across the chandelier-lit expanse, leaning against a marble pillar, a tumbler of scotch dangling from long fingers. Dark hair tousled just so, jaw shadowed with stubble, eyes scanning the room with predatory calm. Fred. But not Johnny Harlan, flesh and ink, smirking as if he'd scripted my entrance. "Mr. Editor," he said, voice matching the dream exactly, that velvet drawl wrapping around my name like a noose. "You clean up nicer than your notes suggest." I choked on my sip. "Johnny, you're here. Wouldn't miss the chance to see my villain in the wild." He clinked his glass to mine, close enough that I caught his scent, sandalwood and city rain. We talked for hours, the party fading to a murmur. He was 32, a former ad exec who'd burned out chasing billable hours, now scraping by on freelance gigs and this damn book. Grew up in the Hamptons, but the money dried up when his folks split. "Fred's me, minus the polish," he admitted, eyes darkening. "The parts one couldn't forgive." I wanted to ask about the rest, the parts that made Fred's touch linger on the page like a bruise. Instead, I said, "He's more than that. Redeemable." Johnny's laugh was low, dangerous. "Careful, Alex. Villains don't do redemption. They do obsession." We ended up on the balcony. The city sprawled below like a lover's discarded clothes. Snowflakes melted on my lashes as he leaned in, breath warm against my ear. "Thank you for seeing him." His hand brushed mine. Accidental, electric. I pulled away first, heart hammering. Abandoned editors didn't chase phantoms. But that night, alone in my apartment, I reopened the file. Fred's final scene, a betrayal that left Liam broken, wandering the bridges at dawn. I added a note, "Consider mercy." Johnny's reply pinged at 3 a.m. Mercy? Or a sequel? Winter deepened, and so did we. Coffee in the village. Walks along the high line where the weeds whispered secrets. Johnny was Fred without the fangs, charming, guarded, with a laugh that cracked open something feral in me. He'd read my edits aloud in dive bars, mocking my precision until I laughed too hard, spilling beer on manuscripts. "You're taming him," he'd say, but his eyes said you're taming me. One January evening, after a blizzard buried the city, we holed up in his Chelsea walk-up. Bookshelves sagged under tomes of Kerouac and Baldwin, a typewriter mocking us from the corner. We were deep into revisions, Fred's arc bending toward something like absolution, a quiet moment where he confesses to Liam under the Williamsburg Bridge, rain washing away the lies. "Make it hurt more," Johnny murmured, his knee pressing mine under the scarred oak table. I did. Words flowed, raw and unfiltered, Fred's fingers tracing Liam's jaw, a kiss that tasted of salt water and surrender. Johnny read it silently, then looked up, pupils blown wide. "Christ, Alex. That's alive." Our first kiss happened then, inevitable as a plot twist. He tasted like the scotch we'd shared, his hands fisting my shirt as if I'd vanish like a deleted scene. We tumbled to the rug, coats discarded, the storm howling outside like applause. It was messy, urgent, teeth and tongues, his stubble scraping my throat as I arched beneath him. "Stay," he whispered against my skin, and for the first time since Marcus, I believed someone might. But villains don't do forever. By February, the manuscript was done, shadows polished to a lethal sheen. Evelyn snatched it for spring catalog, buzzing about "the next Call Me by Your Name with teeth." Johnny and I celebrated at his place, take-out Thai and a bottle of Cabernet that loosened tongues. He pulled me close on the couch, lips brushing my temple. "This is us now. No edits." I wanted to believe him. God, I did. But in the quiet hours, doubts crept in like footnotes. Why did his phone buzz at odd times? Silenced but insistent? Why the locked drawer in his desk? Key dangling from a chain around his neck? Fred's betrayal echoed. The villain who loved just enough to destroy. Spring bloomed, and so did the lies. I found the first one on a Thursday, sunlight slanting through my office blinds like accusatory fingers. An email from Johnny's P.O. box, not to me, but forwarded by accident. "Fred, baby, revisions on the side project. Miss your edge." Signed, L for Liam? Or worse, my stomach twisted, the room spinning. I confronted him that night at our spot, a hole in the wall in the East Village where the jukebox played Springsteen like a dirge. "Who's L?" I demanded, voice steady as a first draft. He blinked, then laughed. Too sharp, too Fred. An old collaborator. Nothing, but his eyes flickered, the tell I'd edited out of countless scenes. We fought in whispers, the bar's hum drowning our accusations. "You're seeing ghosts, Alex," he said, but his hand trembled when he reached for mine. I left, the door slamming like a chapter break. Days blurred into silence. No calls, no drafts. Shadows went to print, my name on the acknowledgments. To Alex, who saw the man behind the monster. Ironic, that. Then the betrayal hit, full force. A week before launch, Evelyn called me into her office, face thunderous. "Harlan's shopping a sequel to Knopf. Says it's evolved beyond your touch." The air punched from my lungs. Sequel? We'd brainstormed it together. Nights tangled in sheets, plotting Fred's return. My ideas, my heart, stolen like plot points from a beta reader. I stormed to his apartment, key he'd given me burning in my pocket. The door swung open to chaos. Clothes strewn, a man's coat, not mine, draped over the chair. And there, in the bedroom doorway, was Elle. Tall, blonde, with Liam's easy grin from the book. "Johnny," I called, voice cracking. He emerged, shirtless, guilt etching lines around his mouth. "Alex, wait," but I didn't. I ran, the city a blur of neon and nausea, rain starting as if on cue. Under the awning of a bodega, I doubled over, vomiting the lies I'd swallowed. Abandoned again, by the villain I'd created. The launch party for Shadows in the Spire was a glittering farce, held in a Soho loft where exposed brick mocked my crumbling resolve. I considered skipping it, feigning flu, deadlines, anything to avoid the spectacle of Johnny Harlan basking in acclaim built on my revisions. But Evelyn's glare in the elevator that morning sealed it. Be there, Alex. Or explain to the board why our star editor's gone AWOL. So I went, armored in a charcoal suit that hung looser than before, the weight I'd lost since the breakup manifesting as hollows under my eyes. The space thrummed with industry vultures, agents in power heels, reviewers nursing Manhattans, a DJ spinning indie tracks that clashed with the room's pretension. I nursed a gin and tonic at the periphery, nodding through small talk about disruptive voices and queer lit's renaissance. Queer lit. As if Fred's predatory grace wasn't a mirror to my own unraveling desires. Then the man himself took the mic, spotlit like a fallen angel, his smile sharp enough to draw blood. Ladies, gents, and those of us who defy categories, Johnny began, voice rolling like thunder over the Hudson. Shadows isn't just a story, it's a reckoning. With the men we love, the ones we betray, the villains we can't quit. Laughter rippled, appreciative. My glass trembled. I set it down before it betrayed me. He scanned the crowd, eyes locking on mine for a beat too long. Apology, defiance? I couldn't read it, hadn't been able to since that night. The signing line snaked like a conga through the loft, fans clutching arcs with the fervor of converts. I hovered near the bar, debating escape, when Elle materialized, blonde hair artfully disheveled, button down unbuttoned to reveal a sliver of tan chest. Up close, he was Liam incarnate, boyish charm masking something sharper. Alex, right? Johnny's mentioned you. Mentioned. As if I were a footnote. Has he? I replied, voice cool as the ice in my drink. He chuckled, low and easy. The editor who breathed life into Fred. Said you get the darkness like no one else. His eyes flicked over me, assessing. Coffee sometime? Compare notes on the sequel. The sequel. The word landed like a gut punch. Pass, I said, turning away. But he caught my elbow, grip light but insistent. Look, he's a mess without you. That night, it wasn't. Save it. I wrenched free, the room tilting. Outside, the April air bit like regret, taxis honking their indifference. I walked, blocks blurring into a haze, until I found myself at the High Line, our spot, elevated above the chaos, weeds whispering accusations. That's where Johnny found me, an hour later, coat flapping like surrender flags. Alex, please. I didn't turn. How much of it was mine? The bridge scene? The confession? All of it. He stepped closer, breath ragged. You're in every line. That's why I don't. The word cracked. Bro. You used me. Like Fred uses Liam. Then you shopped it to Knopf? With him. Silence stretched, taut as a bowstring. When he spoke, his voice was stripped bare. Elle's my ex. Agent. Actually. He pitched the sequel idea, said it needed fresh eyes. Panicked. Thought you'd walk if it got too real. Too real. I whirled. Rain from an earlier shower still dampening my hair. You betrayed me, Johnny. For what? A better deal. his face crumpled, the villain's mask slipping. For us. To prove I could stand without leaning on your edits. But I fucked it up. Like always, we stood there, the city pulsing below, a freight train rumbling distant thunder. Part of me wanted to bridge the gap, to let his hands pull me into forgiveness. But the editor in me, the one who'd marked up 1,000 lies, saw the subtext. Fred doesn't change. He adapts. Go back to the party, I said finally. Celebrate your reckoning. He didn't. Instead, he closed the distance, cupping my face with hands that trembled. I love you, Alex. Not the book. You, the words hung, heavy as unshed tears. I leaned in despite myself, our kiss a collision, desperate, devouring, tasting of gin and grief. His fingers tangled in my hair, body pressing mine against the railing, the world narrowing to the heat between us. For a moment, it was enough redemption in the rough. But moments fracture. We broke apart, gasping, and reality seeped back. The loft's laughter echoing faint, El's shadow looming in my mind. Prove it, I whispered. Ditch the sequel. Stay with Hawthorne. His eyes darkened, conflict warring. Alex, it's not that simple. The advance. Nothing is. I pulled away, the chasm widening. Villains choose themselves first. He let me go, silhouette shrinking as I descended the stairs, the high lines paths twisting like plot lines unresolved. The weeks that followed were a slow bleed. Shadows hit shelves with a splash, rave reviews in the Atlantic, calling it a searing queer odyssey of love's underbelly. My name stayed on the jacket, a quiet credit, but each sighting in bookstores twisted the knife. Johnny's texts piled up. Miss you. Coffee? I deleted them, burying hurt in freelance gigs. Late nights at the office where fluorescent hum drowned doubts. Evelyn noticed, of course. Harlan's sequel? Dead in the water. She announced one morning, tossing Publishers Weekly across my desk. Knopf passed. Something about inconsistencies. Her eyebrow arched. You wouldn't know anything about that? I feigned ignorance, but guilt gnawed. I'd emailed an anonymous tip, subtle, professional, highlighting how the outline cribbed from our sessions. Petty? Maybe. But betrayal begets betrayal. Spring unfurled into summer, the city shedding its skin in waves of heat. I threw myself into new manuscripts, seeking solace in strangers' stories. A memoir about a drag queen's road trip through the Bible Belt, a sci-fi romance where androids fell for their programmers. Anything to outrun Fred's ghost. Then, in July, a package arrived, no return address, just my name in Johnny's scrawl. Inside, a battered typewriter, the one from his apartment, and a stack of pages. Fred's redemption, an outline. The cover note, your edits only. If you'll have it. I should have burned it. Instead, I read, fingers flying over keys that clacked like confessions. Johnny's vision had shifted. Fred not conquering, but confronting, facing Liam not with seduction, but vulnerability, a bridge scene where he kneels in the rain, begging forgiveness. It was raw, unpolished, laced with our history, a line about editing out the pain until nothing's left but truth. We met at neutral ground, a park bench in Washington Square, arch looming like judgment. He looked wrecked, unshaven. I shadowed. The ad exec polish flaked away. I pulled the plug on L. On everything. Just us. The word dangled, fragile. I handed back the pages, marked in red, strong start. Needs more ache. He smiled, tentative, and for the first time, I saw beyond the villain, the man, scared and seeking. Summer nights became ours again. Picnics on rooftops, bodies entwined under stars smudged by light pollution. Sex was slower now, exploratory. His mouth mapping my scars, my hands learning the freckles on his shoulders. I was scared, he admitted one dawn, head on my chest. Of how much you saw. Like you could rewrite me whole. I wouldn't, I murmured, tracing his spine. Just the rough edges, but edges cut. In August, the conflict resurfaced. A call from Evelyn, Johnny's agent, L, reinstated, had leaked drafts to a tabloid, spinning a tale of editor's revenge, sabotaging the sequel. Reporters swarmed my building, mics thrust like daggers. Mr. Reese, did you steal Harlan's ideas? Flashbulbs popped, blinding. I confronted Johnny at his place, the air thick with takeout grease and tension. You told him? About the tip, he paced, frantic. No, he guessed, twisted it. Alex, I swear. Swears are cheap in your world. The words tasted bitter. Fred's echo. We argued until voices cracked, accusations flying like confetti at a funeral. He grabbed my arm, pull turning to shove. Not hard, but enough to stumble me back. Get out, he snarled, eyes wild. If you can't trust this. I did, door slamming on the man I'd rebuilt. Outside, paparazzi descended, questions a barrage. Is it true? The betrayal? Story of my life? I muttered, pushing through. Autumn leaves turned, mirroring my descent. Freelance dried up. Whispers in the industry branded me the saboteur. I holed up in the brownstone, manuscripts mocking from stacks, wine bottles accumulating like regrets. Marcus texted once, heard about the drama. Drinks, but I ignored it. Love was a villain's game, and I'd lost twice. Then, the climax. A rainy November night, thunder rattling windows like applause for chaos. A knock, insistent, desperate. Johnny, drenched, ice fever bright. I ended it. With L, the book, all of it. Burned the drafts. Why? I stood in the doorway, arms crossed against the chill seeping in. Because without you, it's nothing. He stepped forward, rain pooling at his feet. Fred was us, the bad parts. But you're the redemption I didn't deserve. Lightning cracked, illuminating his face. Vulnerable, stripped. I pulled him inside, towels and tea forgotten as we collided on the stairs. Kisses bruising, hands frantic, tearing at wet clothes. We made it to the bedroom, body slick, his weight grounding me as sobs mingled with moans. Forgive me, he gasped, buried deep, rhythm a plea. I do, I lied. Or maybe not. Pleasure blurring lines, climax crashing like waves on Coney boardwalks. But dawn brought clarity, and with it, the final betrayal. His phone buzzed on the nightstand, L's name, message preview, sequel outline safe. We pitch tomorrow. He doesn't know. I slipped from bed, heart fracturing anew. Johnny slept on, innocent in repose, while I dressed quietly, leaving the typewriter on the table. End of draft, I scrawled. No sequel. The door clicked shut behind me, rain washing my tears into the gutter. Villains don't redeem, they evolve, leaving editors like me to stitch the wounds. Winter gripped New York like a grudge, ice sheeting the sidewalks and frosting the High Line's rails where Johnny and I had once traced futures in frost. I'd moved out of the brownstone sublet, a sterile studio in Midtown, close to Hawthorne but worlds from the life I'd imagined. The industry buzz around Shadows had faded to embers, replaced by holiday catalogs and my own numb routine, coffee runs, query slush, evenings with Netflix and novels that ended too neatly. Betrayal had a way of editing joy out of the frame, leaving only stark whites and blacks. Evelyn pulled strings, landing me a low-profile gig, ghost editing a celebrity memoir. Keep your head down, Alex, she advised over eggnog in her office, tinsel twinkling like false cheer. The Harlan mess? Water under the bridge. But bridges were where villains confessed, and I was done swimming in their currents. Christmas Eve found me alone, string lights casting shadows on unpacked boxes. A knock startled Marcus, of all ghosts, bearing mistletoe and a bottle of Pinot. "Heard you needed company," he said, sheepish grin cracking his model-perfect facade. We talked for hours, old wounds aired like laundry. His affair with the junior exec, my workaholic blinders. By midnight, his hand on my knee sparked something. Familiar, safe. We kissed lazily on the couch, bodies remembering rhythms long forgotten. It wasn't fire, but embers could warm a cold night. New Year's brought tentative hope. Marcus and I fell into a rhythm. Brunches at Sarabeth's, walks in Central Park where joggers dodged snowdrifts. He was steady, a graphic designer now freelancing for indie presses, his abandonment softened by time into youthful mistakes. Sex was gentle, exploratory, no Johnny's urgency, but a quiet intimacy that soothed. "This could be real," he murmured one morning, sunlight gilding his lashes. Yet Fred lingered, a specter in my periphery. Shadows won a Lambda literary nod, Johnny's face beaming from online announcements. I avoided reviews, but one slipped through, a triumph of queer villainy, edited to perfection by Alex Reese. Rumor has it, the heart behind the bite. Heart. As if mine hadn't been excised. February thawed the ice, and with it, a subpoena. L's doing, no doubt, slander suit over the leaked drafts, claiming I'd fabricated the stolen ideas to tank his career. Court dates loomed, depositions dredging our emails, our nights transcribed like bad fanfic. Johnny testified remotely, voice flat over Zoom. Alex believed in the work. More than I did. His eyes met the camera, mine through the screen, and for a second, the room blurred. Believed. Past tense. Like a deleted arc. The case dragged into March. A farce of legalese in a downtown courthouse smelling of stale coffee and despair. L's lawyer painted me as jilted lover turned saboteur. Flashing texts I'd sent in rage, "You're just like him," using people for plot. The judge. A no-nonsense woman with silver streaks. At me skeptically. "Mr. Reese, obsession can blur lines. Was this professional or personal?" "Both," I admitted, voice steady. But the ideas were mine. Shared in trust. Johnny's cross-exam was brutal. I never intended harm. "Alex." He saw me. All of me. His paws hung. Heavy. L smirked from the gallery. Blonde ambition unbowed. Dismissed on technicalities. Insufficient evidence. The suit crumbled, but the damage stuck. Whispers followed me to panels. Water coolers. The editor who loved too hard. Marcus stood by, his hand in mine at a queer-lit reading in Brooklyn, but doubt seated. "You still think about him?" he asked one night, postcoital glow fading. "Like a scar," I confessed. "Itches sometimes." Spring equinox brought the Real storm. A call from Johnny's number. Blocked. But I answered, masochist that I was. "Alex. Don't hang up." "What?" Kurt. Guarded. "I'm sick." Coughs racked him, wet and ragged. "Pneumonia. From the rain that night. Doctors say. Complications." My pulse stuttered. "Hospital. Mount Sinai. Private room. Won't let anyone in but family." Bitter laugh. "And I got none left. I shouldn't have gone." Marcus was out of town. Oblivious. But guilt propelled me. Taxi through cherry blossoms mocking their pink fragility. The room was sterile. Monitors beeping like erratic heartbeats. Johnny looked spectral. Skin sallow. I sunken. For dripping salvation. "You came," he rasped, hand extending like a truce flag. "Humanity, not heroics." I took it, pulse thready under my thumb. We talked in fragments. The sequel's ashes, L's blackballing, his folks Hampton's ghosts. "Fred was my warning," he said, voice fading. "Don't love like that. It destroys." "Then why write it?" "Because destruction's honest." His grip tightened. "You saved me, Alex. From being him." Tears pricked. Mine, not his. Nurses bustled. Time slipping. "Rest," I said, standing. "We'll finish the story." Outside, rain slicked the streets again, wipers slashing like edits. Marcus waited with dinner when I got home, kiss tasting of garlic and grace. But Johnny's hand lingered, a phantom ache. April bloomed betrayal anew. A package, hospital stationery. Johnny's scrawl. "Last draft. For you." Pages chronicled Fred's end. Not death, but exile. Wandering bridges alone. Liam's forgiveness a distant echo. Tucked inside, a letter. I lied about L. The pitch? Fake. To see if you'd fight. You did for yourself. That's the real redemption. Rage boiled, hot and clarifying. He played me again. Even from a sickbed, a villain's final twist. I burned the pages in the sink. Flames licking like accusations. Ashes swirling down the drain with my illusions. Confrontation came in May, post-discharge. I found him at a cafe in the village. Frail but fierce, nursing black coffee. "The letter," I said, sliding into the booth. "Cute. Real cute." His smile was ghost thin. "Had to know. If you still cared enough to hate me." "I don't hate you, Johnny. I pity you." Words sharp as red ink. "You could have been more. But villains choose cages." He flinched, then nodded. "Fair edit." Pause. I searching. "And Marcus. Good. Steady." The truth stung. Marcus was the happy ending. Sans drama. We parted with a nod. No hugs. No hooks. Closure. American style. Polite. Punctuated. Summer simmered. Marcus and I deepening trips to Fire Island, where dunes whispered freedoms. Bodies bronzed and bare. Love grew roots. Quiet but tenacious. Yet Fred's shadow lengthened. A Shadows sequel announced. Ghostwritten. Sans my touch. Johnny's byline faded. Rumors of relapse. Seclusion. Then, the call. Evelyn. Voice hushed. "Harlan's gone." Overdose. Pills and scotch. Left a note. For you. The world tilted. Grief a sucker punch. Funeral was small. Hampton's cemetery under gray skies. Mourners sparse. L. Eyes red-rimmed. A sister I'd never met. Clutching lilies. I read the note in the limo back. You were right. No sequels. But thank you for seeing the man. Love. Always. Johnny. Marcus held me that night. No questions. Just presence. You okay? No, I whispered. But I will be. Autumn leaves fell like unfinished sentences. The city turning inward. I finished the memoir. Landed a promotion senior editor. Queer imprints my beat. Stories flowed. Tales of resilience. Not ruin. Marcus proposed on the High Line. Ring simple. Sunset gilding his grin. No villains here, he said. Just us. I said yes. Heart mending stitch by stitch. But in quiet moments, I'd wonder, was Johnny's end the tragedy? Or mine the grace? Villains teach us to edit ourselves. Cut the excess. Keep the core. One November eve. Rain pattering like applause. I pulled out a blank manuscript. Echoes of the spire. Not Fred's story, but mine. The abandoned editor who loved a phantom. Betrayed by ink and flesh. Emerging whole. The hook. 3 men on a bridge. One vanishing into storm. The others linking arms against the wind. Humanity's the real plot twist. We don't conquer villains, we outlive them. Wait. Recalibrating. Actually, the story needs climax here. Let's adjust. No. Continue seamlessly. The real climax hit like a blackout. June heatwave. Air thick as unspoken truths. Marcus and I were packing for Provincetown. His beach house a promise of salt air and sunsets. When my phone buzzed, unknown number. Alex Reese? This is Detective Ruiz. NYPD. Regarding Johnny Harlan. My blood iced. What about him? He's alive. Barely. Was jumped last night. Chelsea. Alley off 8th. Mugging gone wrong. In surgery now. Marcus paused. Suitcase zipper half done. Who? I didn't answer. Already grabbing keys. The hospital was a labyrinth of beeps and bleach. Johnny in recovery. Bandaged like a battered draft. Bruises bloomed purple on his jaw. Stitches laddering his temple. Fred's finale, he croaked. Eyes fluttering open. Poetic. Ha! Who? I demanded. Chair scraping tile. Ghosts. L's crew. Payback for the leak. Cough. Wince. Told him to fuck off. Guess he listened. Rage surged. Hot and helpless. You idiot. Why not call security? Or me? You. Weak smile. Thought we were done. We are. But I stayed. Hours bleeding into night. Holding his hand as monitors steadied. Marcus texted. Everything okay? I replied, complication. Home late. Dawn found us quiet. His fingers laced with mine. Finish it, Alex. The book. My way. Your way. Fred lives. Redeemed. With Liam. I nodded. Throat tight. Deal. Discharge brought convalescence. My studio his temporary cage. Marcus understanding with a grace that shamed me. Help him heal, he said. Then choose. Days blurred. Broth and banter. Revisions by bedside. Johnny softened. Stories spilling childhood Hampton summers. First love lost to AIDS in the 90s. The villain born of survival. Fred was armor. he admitted, sunlight slanting on scars. You stripped it. Nights, Marcus slept alone, trust fraying like old binding. The climax crested one storm-lashed evening. Johnny strong enough to walk, us on the fire escape, city lights winking below. I love you, he said, not plea but fact. Always did, lightning forked, illuminating choice. But I love him too, I replied. The man who stayed, his nod was benediction. Then edit me out. Happy ending. We kissed farewell, tender, final, rain mingling tears. He left next morning, sequel outline in hand, exiled for good. Summer waned, Marcus and I mending therapy sessions in Gramercy, where words unpacked like boxes. Betrayal's not the end, our counselor said. It's the inciting incident. Fall brought echoes, my novel, published under Hawthorne, dedicated to those who rewrite their villains. Johnny blurbed it, the editor who saved me. Humanistic close. We thrive not despite the dark, but through it. Love's no fairy tale. It's the messy draft we revise together. The publication of Echoes of the Spire was a quiet revolution, slipping into bookstores like a secret shared in a confessional. No fanfare, no loft parties with DJs and deceit, just a reading at a cozy indie in the West Village, fairy lights strung like stars over dog-eared shelves. Marcus stood in the back, his presence an anchor, smile proud as I took the mic. This book, I began, voice steady despite the flutter in my chest, is about seeing the monster and loving the man anyway. About betrayal's sting and forgiveness's slow burn. The crowd, mostly queer folks, a mix of writers and readers with eyes that held their own stories, leaned in. I read the bridge scene, words flowing like the East River at flood. Fred, not vanquished but vulnerable, arms open to Liam under thunderclap skies. Applause rippled, warm, genuine. Signings followed, hands shaking mine with, "Thank you for the hope." Johnny was there, unobtrusive in the shadows, nursing a seltzer. No leather jacket, just a hoodie and jeans, the frailty of his ordeal softened by time. He waited until the line thinned, then approached, book extended. "Make it personal," he said, pen hovering. I signed, "To the villain who taught me grace." Alex. His eyes met mine, clear now, no fever haze. "Proud of you. And you?" The sequel, scraped it. Starting fresh. Memoir. Maybe. The real shit. We hugged brief, bones pressing like book spines, then parted. Marcus joined me, arms slipping around my waist. "Old flame, old fire," I corrected. "Embers now." That night, we celebrated privately, candlelit dinner on our new balcony overlooking the Hudson, wine flowing like confessions. Marcus raised his glass. To drafts and do-overs. To us, the kiss that followed was promise. Deep, unhurried, his hands mapping paths we'd yet to tread. In bed, bodies synced like well-edited prose, pleasure building to a crescendo that left us breathless, tangled. "Marry me for real?" he whispered, ring glinting on the nightstand, the one from the High Line, upgraded with our initials engraved. "Every day," I replied, heart full. But stories don't end neat, they echo. October brought a curveball. Elle's arrest. Papers splashed with literary agent's assault plot unravels. Turns out, the mugging was orchestrated, payback for Johnny spurning the sequel push. Elle confessed in a plea deal. Tears for the camera. I thought he was mine to shape. The news cycled. shadows spiking back to bestseller lists. Johnny called, voice wry. Irony's a bitch. Dinner? Neutral ground. We met at a diner in Hell's Kitchen. Formica tables scarred like old manuscripts. No romance, just reckoning. Therapy's kicking my ass, he admitted over fries. Fred was the mask. Time to face the face. Good. I sipped coffee. Black. And after. L.A. Maybe. Screenplay gig. Hollywood loves villains. I nodded. No envy. No ache. Write something true. He did unmasked. A raw tell-all hitting shelves that winter. Blurbed by me. Johnny Harlan bears the soul behind the shadow. Unforgettable. Meanwhile, Marcus and I built a wedding in spring. Small ceremony on Fire Island. Waves crashing like vows. Friends toasted. Evelyn with a bawdy speech about editing out the assholes. And we danced under dunes, his head on my shoulder, world reduced to heartbeat sync. But the humanistic core deepened in quiet ways. I mentored young editors, queer voices from margins, teaching not just grammar but grace. Characters betray because people do. Let it hurt, then let it heal. One kid, a trans writer with fire in his prose, hugged me post-workshop. You get it, the villain's not the end. Summer 2026 found us adopting a rescue pup named Scout, all floppy ears and loyalty, chasing frisbees in Prospect Park. Johnny visited once, en route to a festival, Scout licking his hand like forgiveness. Family suits you, he said. I soft. You too, I lied gently. His memoir's success masked the solitude. The Hamptons house bought with royalties, empty but for ghosts. Fall deepened conflict's echoes. A Shadows adaptation announced, streaming giant sniffing blood. Johnny scripted, insisting on my consult. You're Fred, he emailed. Notes? I sent them measured, professional. Marcus reading over my shoulder. No jealousy, just trust. He's part of your story, he said. Own it. The premiere was glitzy. Red carpet in Tribeca. Flashbulbs popping like plot points. Johnny in tux. Charismatic as ever. Arm linked with a co-writer. Platonic spark. Marcus and I sat mid-row. Popcorn shared. My hand in his. Fred on screen was electric. Daniel Radcliffe channeling that velvet menace. The rain kiss a scene stealer. When credits rolled, applause thundered. Johnny found us in the after-party crush. You nailed it, I said, clinking glasses. We did. His grin was genuine. No shadows. Liam's arc, your touch. Later, on the balcony overlooking the East River, Marcus and I decompressed, city lights mirroring stars. Proud? He asked, chin on my shoulder. Immensely, kiss soft, lingering. You, always, his hand on my belly, early days, but we'd decided, family expanding, via donor, dreams of tiny feet pattering brownstone floors. Winter solstice brought the bi-kitsch twist. Not tragedy, but poignant. Johnny's sister called, voice breaking. Cancer, stage 4, the folks' legacy of silence. He flew home, memoir sequel scrapped for bedside vigils. I wired what I could. Anonymous editors give, quietly. His last email, facing the end like Fred should open. Thanks for the rewrite. Live fierce. Alex. He passed in March. Cherry blossoms falling like confetti at the memorial. Small, by the sea, ashes scattered where waves met sand. El showed, sober now, apology mumbled. I was the real villain. Forgiven, I said, for Johnny's sake. Marcus held me as gulls cried, our unborn child's kick a flutter of future. What now? Now, we write the next chapter. Humanism's grace. Betrayal scars, but love layers over thicker, stronger. Villains fade. Heroes endure, hand in hand, editing life into art. The nursery came together in fits of joy and sawdust. Marcus on a ladder painting walls sage green. Me assembling crib slats with the precision of line edits. Think he'll like Goodnight Moon? Marcus asked. Belly bump pressing my back as I knelt. Tools scattered like plot bunnies. Or Where the Wild Things Are, I replied, turning for a kiss sticky with paint. Our son, due in July, was already a character. Kicks like thunderclaps. Ultrasounds revealing a button nose that promised mischief. We'd named him Ellis, after Baldwin's unseen threads. Woven, resilient. Hawthorne thrived under my tenure. Queer list exploding. Debuts from voices I championed. Pages pulsing with truths once silenced. Evelyn retired, passing the baton with a wink. Don't fuck it up like Harlan. I didn't laugh. Instead, I dedicated the season's anthology to him. Shadows cast long, but light finds a way. Spring wedding anniversary found us renewing vows on the High Line. Friends toasting with craft IPAs. Scout begging treats. No rain, just sun gilding rails where Johnny and I had fractured. Marcus twirled me, laughter bubbling. Still editing me? Only the boring parts, I quipped, his grin my favorite plot twist. But echoes persisted, humanistic in their persistence. A package arrived in June, Johnny's sister, executrix of his will. Inside, the typewriter, restored, and a thumb drive. Final draft. Yours. I plugged it in late. Ellis restless in utero. Marcus snoring soft. Files unfolded. The editor's shadow, a metatale, me as protagonist, Johnny as the villain author blurring lines. It ended open. Alex walking bridges alone, then turning back, hand extended to a figure in fog. Redemption's not solo, the note read. The shared ink. Tears came, hot and healing. I printed it, bound crude, slipped into our library beside shadows. Uncle Johnny's story, I'd tell Ellis someday. He taught Daddy about love's rough drafts. Labor hit on a humid July 4th. Fireworks bursting like premature celebrations as I gripped Marcus's hand in the delivery room. Ellis arrived screaming, red-faced and perfect, 10 fingers clutching air like lifelines. He's got your eyes, Marcus whispered, exhausted bliss etching his face. And your fight, I added, cradling our son, world narrowing to milk scent and tiny breaths. Parenthood was chaos scripted sweet. Midnight feedings to Coltrane, park strollers dodging pigeons. Marcus's lullabies off-key but earnest. We balanced, me to office, him freelance from home. Dates squeezed in like marginalia. Rooftop picnics, bodies rediscovering in quiet hours. Passion tempered but no less profound. Fall brought full circle. The editor's shadow submitted to Hawthorne. Posthumous Harlan under my edit. Evelyn's successor greenlit. Launch intimate at that same village shop. Readings alternated. My voice for Alex's ache. Actress for Fred's fire. Crowd wept. Laughed. Johnny's sister hugged me post-event. He'd be proud. He is, I said. Ellis gurgling in Marcus's arms. Reviews poured. A love letter to queer creation. Betrayal's bomb. Charted modestly, but impact rippled. Letters from readers. Your story saved mine. One December eve. Snow blanketing brownstone stoops. We bundled Ellis for a walk. High line aglow. Lights strung festive. Marcus pushing stroller while I recounted shadows. Sanitized. For tiny ears. And the villain? He learned to be good. Ellis cooed. Fist waving like a wand. At the bridge overlook. I paused. Wind whispering old confessions. Marcus slipped arm around me. Penny, just ghosts. Smile soft. Friendly ones. We kissed over the railing. City sprawling benevolent below. Skyscraper sentinels. Rivers veins of silver. No climaxes left. Just denouement. Gentle as fade out. Years folded. Ellis toddling into sentences. Daddy edit? With crayon books clutched. Marcus's firm boomed. Mine mentored. Johnny's legacy bloomed, scholarships in his name for queer writers. Shadows in high school syllabi debating villainy nuance. 40. Gray threading my temples. I penned memoirs. Ink and abandonment. Truths laid bare. Launch packed. Ellis reading opening lines. Voice cracking tween. Hook strong. Dad. Marcus beamed from front row. Our hands linked under table, steady, through betrayals and births. Humanism's end. We don't slay dragons. We befriend them, scales and all. Love's the ultimate edit, cutting pain, amplifying light. In America's sprawl, from abandoned editors to villain hearts, we rewrite. Not perfect, but profoundly ours. And in the quiet, when rain taps windows like applause, I hear Johnny's drawl. Well done, Mr. Editor. Fade to credits.